BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Black Box Ned 88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. All right, and it is October 30th. Tomorrow is Halloween. For those following the Zodiac Killer case and mystery, there was a particular card that was mailed in 1970 called the Halloween card. I've never done a specific upload on that one, but there is one available on Rick Hanson's channel, and in the description box here, you will find a link to that upload on the Zodiac Killer Halloween card. So if anyone would like to listen to that today or tomorrow, and anyone in the future, can find the link for the Halloween card episode from Rick Hanson's channel in the description box. The second announcement that I would like to say before we begin is that we're going to be doing a new series here on this channel, but I really wanted to pull the people who listen to these things regularly and find out what you guys wanted to hear about. And we're going to be putting out this message over the course of the next couple days. We're either going to do a series on the Myth of the Zodiac Killer, a book discussion on that one, or an open discussion on the Zodiac-Manson connection. The motivation for the Myth of the Zodiac Killer discussion is I did one on the Great Zodiac Killer Hoax of 1986 by Thomas Henry Horan, and he has repackaged his writings on that subject into one book, The Myth of the Zodiac Killer. And also, I just wanted another shot at it because I wanted to expand upon the things that we've talked about over the last 12 months, as well as the one that I did before was very, very basic, and YouTube is also doing these weird things with taking down effects and graphics, and there are a whole bunch of reasons why I thought about redoing that one, and he has repackaged the book into The Myth of the Zodiac Killer, so that's one thing. Plus, we had some really good comments that came in from you guys after we did our open discussion on the Zodiac hoax theory. So we have the Myth of the Zodiac Killer, a book discussion. If we were to do the Zodiac Killer Manson connection, that's an open one, right? We wouldn't be following along with any single writer. An open discussion would be just looking at all different sides, and it could be, someone for, someone against, going in all different directions, and just trying to be on the side of the truth. And both of them will be on the side of the truth, but in the Myth of the Zodiac Killer, we would be doing one specific book, and with the open discussion, it would be just about the Zodiac Killer and the connections to Charles Manson, alleged connections, that is. So please drop your responses in the comment section below. And if you're somebody who's listening to this, ages in the future, please feel free to share about anything you would like to hear about on this channel. What do you think would be a good topic for an upload? Or if you have something to say about the Zodiac Killer Manson connection, or the Myth of the Zodiac Killer, the Great Zodiac Killer Hoax, Thomas Henry Horan, and all of that, please feel free to weigh in. But yes, indeed, today is October 30th, and 54 years ago, Cheri Jo Bates lost her life. And no matter what anyone says about Cheri Jo Bates, no matter what happened, no matter the course of events, she did not deserve to die the way she did. She was stabbed more than 40 times in a very horrific and gruesome attack, a brutal attack outside of the RCC library in California, and her body was found on Halloween morning in the early hours around 6 a.m. or sometime thereabouts. And this is a total anniversary upload. This is a total memorial that we have been doing once a year recently, and perhaps we'll keep doing in the future. So first and foremost, we should say a big rest in peace to Cheri Jo Bates. And no one has ever been convicted of her murder, and that is something that is very saddening. But of course, this is one that has received an enormous amount of attention and discussion points because it's possible that this was a Zodiac Killer incident that took place in 1966. It is 2020 right now, as we said, 54 years later. Cheri Jo Bates was murdered on October 30th, 1966, 2 years before the first confirmed Zodiac Killer incident. Now, as we said, Cheri Jo Bates was stabbed more than 40 times, so that is quite different than the stabbing that took place at Lake Berryessa, where Cecilia Shepard was stabbed 10 times, Brian Hartnell was stabbed 7 times. Some people instantly think that that rules out that this was the Zodiac Killer. They're just like, this wasn't his MO, or that if there was this type of ferocity and viciousness, then the person who had stabbed Cheri Jo Bates must have had some type of personal connection to her. This appears to be a revenge killing. But in the Zodiac Killer mystery, very few things are consistent. So what I would like to do actually with this one is first, I would like to jump over to our upload that we did in 2019, the anniversary upload that we did and look at some of the comments that we have here. And the first one comes to us from Alistair Archibald, who writes, I'm certainly not married to the idea that Cheri Jo Bates's murder is a surefire Zodiac killing, because the genuine Zodiac, quite obviously, was willing to own up to just about any murder to up his infamy. And the comment does go on there, but I think that that is a very good point. The Zodiac confessed to so many things. I murdered 37 people. I tried to abduct Kathleen Johns in March of 1970. The Zodiac confessed to just countless different things. I've buried a bus bomb, and as well as just sending in the letters and the ciphers. And I think that one of the major points of consensus that we find in the Zodiac Killer mystery is that people are like, the Zodiac was much more about being braggadocious than he was about murdering people. He or group, no matter what you would like to call it, no matter what theory you go with, it's more about the letters and the ciphers. It's more about bragging. It's more about amping himself up, or the exact word here is upping his infamy, as Alistair Archibald has written, but the comment goes on. However, as for all Zodiac's murders were methodical, is it not possible, because he was sloppy in his first murder, leaving his watch behind and so on, that having found killing itself relatively easy, he schooled himself not to make so many mistakes? And so many mistakes and risks. Okay, now this is how people would go down the pathway. The people who think that Cheri Jo Bates was a genuine Zodiac killer victim, they are simply saying, this person was trying to learn about things. This person, whoever would have been involved with the planning of the murders, they almost got caught, perhaps after the murder of Cheri Jo Bates, and then that's why the Zodiac killer had to stay silent for 2 years, 1966 to 1968, and thinking if I ever were to attempt to try and kill again, it would not be done in such a vicious way, because Cheri Jo Bates fought for her life. And he talks about the watch here. It was a Timex watch that was ripped off, and the authorities did find the watch band. I mean, of course, they found the broken watch. That's how they know it's Timex, obviously. I mean, that goes without saying. If this were a Zodiac watch that had the name Zodiac with a symbol on it, I wouldn't think twice about it. I would be like, Zodiac Killer, absolutely. But it was a Timex watch, and I know that's going out on a limb, but that I definitely go down that pathway. So, is it possible that this perpetrator just sat quietly for 2 years, or just trying to think about how to go about this in a more methodical way? And then, okay, I'm going to sneak up on some teenagers who are at a parking lot called Lake Herman Road in December of 1968, fire some gunshots, and then disappear into the night. Is that what happened? Well, I think that we should move on with a particular thing, because sometimes on this channel, we do these open discussions where I'm reading somebody else's article, and I'm like, okay, now this is what I agree with, this is what I disagree with, this is what I think about this is what I think about that. But that's talking about somebody else's claim. If we have to look at one of my own statements that I would just believe 100% wholeheartedly, is that if the Zodiac Killer did not murder Cheri Jo Bates, he studied this case very closely. The Zodiac must have studied other true crime cases, learned about other true crime cases, and the ones that I often talk about are the murder of Cheri Jo Bates, the case of Jack the Ripper, of course, Whitechapel murders from England, as well as the Texarkana Moonlight murders of 1946. There are various true crime cases that I think the Zodiac Killer would have had to have been very familiar with, and putting all of this into action, as well as other sources from fiction, such as The Mikado, Gilbert and Sullivan, and we've mentioned them so many times, comic books, Tim Holt, and things like Red Ryder, Detective Story Magazine. I don't mean to be too repetitive to those for people who have been listening. But the next thing I would like to do is to give a shout out to YouTube user Playtime, who left a comment on a different upload, talking about how there was a letter that was mailed after Cheri Jo Bates was murdered that said, Bates had to die, there will be more, and it was signed with a Z. I believe there were actually 3 different copies of this letter that were mailed, and a lot of people are like, well, hey, it says Bates had to die, there will be more, and it's signed with the letter Z, this has to be the Zodiac Killer. I mean, not necessarily, because what Playtime has shared with me is that this was not the letter Z. I mean, you can look up the image for yourself and you can decide, but what Playtime has said, this is from the Theban alphabet. The Theban alphabet that is used by Wicca and witchcraft, and this is a Theban L. And in the graphic here, you can see the Theban alphabet. And what I can actually say is it appears that there are numerous letters that seem to be somewhat similar to the Z that that concludes the Bates letters, and the Theban Z actually also looks somewhat similar. But I think that this is a very big contribution, so thank you, Playtime, for sharing with me. And Playtime also made a request to do an upload in the future on Les Lundblad Jr. and all things related to the true crime world with Les Lundblad Sr. and Les Lundblad Jr. Les Lundblad was of course one of the investigating officers at Lake Herman Road, and Les Lundblad Jr. would go on to be involved in his own murder trial and such, murder investigation into his own actions. So we can look at some of those possible connections in the future. That was one thing that I meant to talk about in the AMA that we did at the end of October. But we also have some future uploads coming up on the link letter connection to the Zodiac Killer mystery, as well as perhaps doing one on the proposed topic that you guys will get to decide in the comments section. So as always, you can hit the like button and subscribe if you would like to follow any of these uploads about the Zodiac Killer, all things true crime, serial killers, and whatever else we happen to cover on this channel. The like button and subscribe at any time to keep up with our stuff here. So the thing is about what does this letter mean? Bates had to die. There will be more signed with a Z. Is it a Z or is it a Theban L? Because one of the things that Playtime also shared in the comment was that Cheri Jo Bates was murdered on October 30th, right before Halloween. You can think about Samhain. You can think about anything to do with witchcraft or the spooky time of the year if we're going to be a little bit more childish and juvenile and such. And this doesn't really sound out of the ordinary. This is one of the reasons why I said I totally believe that the Zodiac Killer would have had a very intense familiarity with the Bates murder. Because, I mean, when you have a letter that says Bates had to die, there will be more, and it's signed with something that appears to be a letter Z, the average person isn't going to look at that and think that it's a Theban L. So even if somebody is not writing the letter himself, then he would still be thinking that, okay, this looks like the letter Z. First, the letter Z was chosen. This is another bold claim that I would really stand by. The letter Z was chosen before the name Zodiac. And there could be a variety of meanings behind the name Zodiac, because what I would say is that in the Don Chaney theory, and this is very, very loose, I mean, I've heard a lot about this from Drew Beeson, just hearing that Don Chaney's father was a watchmaker, I believe, or he worked with watches, and then Zodiac is, of course, the name of a watch. I mean, I don't think I've exactly heard Drew put it together just like that, but, I mean, that could be some type of connection there to why the name Zodiac was chosen, if you entertain the possibility of Don Chaney being the Zodiac Killer, and it's a very strong case for a suspect, because I don't think I've ever heard a clearer narrative about how one person could have committed all these crimes. But many people are going to be looking at this, and they're going to put in their own ideas, because Gary Stewart offered one possibility that this is not a Theban L. This is not any type of real English letter. What it actually is a combination of the letters E and V, and that is, of course, for Earl Van Best Jr., Gary Stewart's suspect, but I don't personally believe that. That's just something we've mentioned on the channel that I wanted to put out there one more time. Another possibility, and other people think it's a 32 because Arthur Lee Allen lived at 32 Fresno Street. I do not necessarily believe that, because I don't think Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac Killer. And thank you to Rick Hanson again, because he has shared something here in one comment. In December of 1966, at the RCC, Riverside City College Library, a desk was found that had a particular poem carved into it, and we're just going to read that right now. Sick of living, unwilling to die, cut, clean, if red, clean, blood spurting, dripping, spilling, all over her new dress. Oh well, it was red anyway. Life draining into an uncertain death. She won't die this time. Someone'll find her. Just wait. Next time. R.H. And what do we make of this? I mean, a lot of people still try to connect this to Ross Sullivan, because it's highly likely that Ross Sullivan, as a Zodiac Killer suspect, was in the RCC at the time. He was at Riverside City College and in the RCC library. I mean, people have been able to do that much in terms of placing Sullivan there, but It's signed RH, not RS. Once again, much as I said about the Zodiac Killer watch, if there had been a Zodiac watch instead of a Timex watch found at the scene of Cheri Jo Bates' murder, I would be like, Zodiac Killer all day. If this were signed RS, I would be like, okay, that was Ross Sullivan. He murdered Cheri Jo Bates. And in the past, I was really thinking that Ross Sullivan had to be looked at as the prime suspect for the murder of Cheri Jo Bates. But instead, a lot of people think that it was someone much closer to her, perhaps an ex-boyfriend, or someone who was a rejected lover of sorts that was Cheri Jo Bates' murder. And as you can hear by that, I definitely lean towards Cheri Jo Bates not being a Zodiac Killer victim. And when we look at this desktop poem here, the big thing that it stands out to me is that this doesn't necessarily appear to be talking about the murder of Cheri Jo Bates, and especially when it says, someone will find her, just wait till next time, she won't die. I mean, that really makes me think that this is talking about something quite different, and it also lacks some of the specifics because I don't believe Cheri Jo Bates was murdered in a red dress, and yes, it's talking about something that is morbid, and other people have brought up the possibility that this desktop poem is a suicide note. Or it is talking about contemplating suicide. It's not a real suicide note. It's talking about contemplating suicide. But on the other hand, people who think that there is going to be some type of connection to this RH, it could be Richard Hoffman, who is going to be involved with this with the Zodiac Killer mystery in a whole nother way. He was, of course, after Blue Rock Springs and perhaps had a connection to Darlene Ferrin. So we can see about Richard Hoffman in the future. We'll do an upload on that theory. But I would also just say that RH, I mean, another alternative suspect out there is Robert Hanson. And you guys have been leaving some comments about Robert Christian Hanson, who was a serial killer from Anchorage, Alaska. And they're saying that the RH has to be for Robert Hanson. I mean, is this even necessarily a genuine piece of Zodiac activity? I'd say that this desktop poem moves away from the Zodiac Killer, and some people even think that it may have been written by a woman, but because it's talking about things like the dress and such, and the way that it's almost written in a way that that's the focal point, and that a woman would be thinking about that. I mean, I definitely think there's a certain masculine connection to the handwriting, but that's just me, and I'm definitely not any type of professional in this. I do think that the desktop poem, if I had to go right now, I'd say it's written by a man, but he's definitely thinking very intently about a woman. Once again, not trying to contemplate murder. I wouldn't even say that, but it's rather just talking about being kind of envious or jealous of not being with a particular woman. But that's just my 2 cents on the subject. And if anybody has anything they would like to say about the murder of Cheri Jo Bates, interpretations of the desktop poem, and any of the material that we have mentioned here on this channel, please drop something in the comments section below down there. Now, we had a comment that came in on this upload, the murder of Cheri Jo Bates, and I don't even necessarily need to say this, but it just says, Tom Voigt is an asshole. And but the thing is that Voigt is spelled Voight. There's no H in Voigt. It's just Voigt. It's easy to remember. Tom Voigt. Get the H out of here. There's not much context tied into that, but okay, well, there you go, Tom, if you're listening. Now, the thing that I would like to say in conclusion is, when we're looking at the murder of Cheri Jo Bates, we had several comments come in over the past 3 or 4 months when a lot of people were encouraging me to think about the case in a particular way, saying that even if the Zodiac Killer did not murder Cheri Jo Bates, it goes beyond the concept of simply learning about the case, studying about it, maybe he had some access to police, this and that, or just had some connection to Riverside. It goes beyond that. They're saying the Zodiac Killer wrote the letters. I had, like I said, several comments come in where you guys were sharing that. I think it's an interesting theory. I definitely think it's crossed my mind once or twice. They're like, the Zodiac wrote these letters to toy with the idea of becoming the real Zodiac that would take place in 1968 and 69. The Zodiac Killer was behind writing the letters, and even with the Bates confession letter, which we haven't really talked about here, but you can hear that read in some other ways, as well as in the Zodiac Killer documentary Obsession into Darkness, available on the Zodiac Killer channel, narrated by yours truly here, Dead from Black Box Online Radio. And we should have episode 3 of that coming out very soon. But like part 1, episode 1 is all about many things connected to Riverside, as well as some other things there, even the murder of Ray Davis. So, once again, that is available on the Zodiac Killer YouTube channel. What I would really say, though, about that, I think it's a very interesting theory. I think it's very thoughtful, and it's not baseless, because there are definitive similarities between the handwriting in what we see, Bates had to die, there will be more, and the way that the Zodiac operated. Not to mention, the confession letter is also somewhat very similar to what the Zodiac would have done. Taunting the police, bragging. I definitely would think that I still have to rule that Cheri Jo Bates may not be genuine Zodiac activity. I lean that way because it appears that the level of viciousness really shows that Cheri Jo was most likely murdered from somebody within her inner circle, and probably some type of jealous ex-lover, the ex-boyfriend that has come into question, that has not been arrested. But once again, I do not know that 100%, and I want to be very clear about that. And I would just like to turn it over to you guys. And first, I would like to say, please respond to the challenge question about, not challenge question, the polling question. What would you rather hear about, the myth of the Zodiac Killer or the Zodiac Manson connection? And please share anything in the comment section below about your interpretations of the Cheri Jo Bates case. In the description box, you can find the link to Rick Hanson's channel, and please visit the Zodiac Killer channel for Obsession into Darkness, as well as all of their other excellent videos. That's all for me now. I will see you on Instagram for the bonus podcast. Until next time.